Hi guys, and welcome to my May wrap-up. I have read 5 books. Wait, let me count again. I have read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have read 5 books. I'm in finishing up the 6th. I DNF'd 1. Is that everything? I think so. Yeah. So, let's talk about the books chronologically. But first off, I want to tell you that I have read those books only for half of March because I had my written final exam on May 15th. I had basically no life before that. For like 8 weeks, I was like constantly studying and sleeping not enough. So I had a life after May 15th. But before that, I did not read anything. And after that, I did like my first video and I read book club picks, which were like 2.5 books in that video. I'll link it down below if I remember. Let's dive into my very first read in May. I started Powerful by Lauren Roberts. I think like a couple days before my written final exam, and then I was finishing up the book right after. This is a novella within the world of Powerless, and this follows Adina, who is Peyton's like best friend. She makes her dresses, and she's a seamstress. And on the back it says, Adina and Peyton have always been inseparable. Fate brought them together when they were young, but friendship ensured they would always protect each other and the home they built in the slums of Lute. But now Peyton, an ordinary, has been selected for the purging trials, which means almost certain death. And we basically follow Adina. Well, the first chapter is basically about them meeting the first time, how Adina tries to steal something and gets caught, and Peyton is like, hey, I'm better at this. That's how they meet, and that's how they became friends, and basically best friends. It's about the story of Adina living in Lute after Peyton goes off to those trials. It's the same timeline as Powerless, and it was such a good book. And I rated it 4 stars. I really liked it. I would have eaten up a whole book about this, not a novella. I would have eaten up a whole book about Adina's story and about her just in her perspective, because it was such a good book. I really liked it. That was the first book I read in May. So the second book I got to was also during my very first video about reading book club picks. And that book club pick was Funny Story. It was actually my very first Emily Henry book. I tried Happy Place like a year ago, I think, and I couldn't get into it that easily. It was a book club pick of 2 of the 3 book clubs I'm in, so I'm really happy that they chose this book because I thought it was really funny. It was such a cute story. And in this, we follow Daphne and Miles. In the beginning, we get to know Daphne as the fiancée of Peter, and during that bachelorette or bachelor party, he realizes that he's still like unconditionally in love with his childhood best friend, Petra. It's kind of funny that they're Peter and Petra because I don't like either of those names, but that's another story. It's also a funny story, but yeah. So we follow Miles and Daphne after they meet up because Miles' ex-fiancée was Petra and Daphne's ex-fiancé was Peter. Daphne asks if she can move in with Miles because she cannot afford her own apartment, and since Petra moved out of Miles' apartment, he's in need of another roommate. And we kind of follow these 2 people fake dating. It's so funny. There's some great side characters like Miles's sister, and Daphne is not really a socialite person, so she kind of goes out there a little bit. You can see that throughout the book. She like makes friends with a coworker, and she's really great. She's so funny as well. So that's basically the story. I have to say I was kind of hoping for it to be like a wedding crash, because after a couple of chapters they get the invitation of Petra and Peter's wedding. which would take place like a month after Daphne and Peter were planning it, actually. So I was kind of hoping it would be like a wedding crash scene or something like that. It didn't turn out like that, but that's fine. I really liked it, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. It's actually my, well, I'm not sure if it's my highest rated book this month because I'm not done with the one I'm currently reading, but I'm going to include it in this video because I'm almost done with it, and it's so great. You'll see later. I'm going to go through this chronologically. Such a hard word. Okay, so that's my second book I read. Lotta joined us. The third book I read was actually on my Kindle. Let me pull up the cover. Oh, it's right there again. Huh, that's cool. Okay, so the third book I read was The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, and it was a fast read, fast-paced. I thought it could have been a little shorter because it's really a long book, to be honest, for a YA thriller or mystery, but I really liked it. So I gave this one 3 stars. It's not a bad rating. I wasn't hooked, but the ending really took it to another level, if you know what I mean. Like, the ending was really good, but I was not reading it because I was like, oh, I really want to keep reading it, because I like could have just set it aside and be fine with it. So yeah, 3 stars for this one. I'll just put my Kindle up here because it's just a symbol of the book I read on the Kindle. It's just one, but okay, next one is a book I have been avoiding, and there's a video out for that one too because it's gotten its own video. And that book is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is a story, it's like a fairy tale. Like, she wrote it actually like a fairy tale. I was annotating a lot of things that were just beautifully written, and I really liked it. This is basically the story about Evangeline wanting to stop the wedding of her love Luke, and she turns to one of the fates who's called Jax, or the Prince of Hearts, and she asks him to stop the wedding, and he kind of does, and through all of that she kind of becomes famous. But that's not really what she wants. With that bargain she made with Jax, she has to kiss 3 people of his choosing. So we are following her, and basically Jax being there all the time, everywhere she goes, and we've gotten 2 kisses in this book. I'm really excited to read the second book. If there's like a third kiss somewhere, 4.25. It's worth the hype. That's what I said in the video as well. But it is worth the hype. I don't know why I have been avoiding this for real, because it's really good. I love it. There were some things that I don't know, that were like annoying to me. That's why it's a 4.25 and not like a 4.5 or a 5 even. Even though I say I loved it. The next book I read was a little bigger than all of the other books. It's like almost 600 pages long, but I kind of through it. It was kind of easy to read. So it's YA fiction with vampires and werewolf shifters and something else that I'm not gonna say because it doesn't say on the back either. And I was really shocked, to be honest. That was a reveal. Oh my god. Okay, so I read Crave by Tracy Wolf. I was in the mood for this. I put down another book, I soft DNF'd it. I picked up this book because I needed something easy on the brain. And it is such a palate cleanser book. It is easy to read. It's not that big of a writing in it as well, so you get through it really fast. It kind of reminds me of Twilight, kind of a little bit, just because of vampires and the feeling you get when you read it. And also, this came out in 2020, so Twilight was not on the table, but I think she like gave it like the new audience Twilight kind of thing. Not in a bad way. I'm not a huge Twilight fan, but I think she like gave like the new generation of readers a new kind of Twilight. And there's a lot of books out. I think there's 6 books out, and the 6th one just came out a year ago. Oh, today, a year ago. Oh my god, that's crazy, to be honest. What a coincidence. It's 3.5 stars for me. It was a good read, it was solid, I could get through this pretty good, but towards the end it was kind of cringe. You could tell that it's YA, and I think I've kind of grown out of the typical YA. That's why it's just a 3.5. But in general, I really liked it. It was a good palate cleanser book, and I think I'm going to continue reading the series. Next up is the book I really DNF'd, and I'm not going to pick up again, to be honest. There's also going to be a video about this. I'm not sure if this goes up before or after that. I started Sally Rooney, Beautiful People, Beautiful World, Where Are You? And I was asking myself, beautiful story, where are you? Because I could not get into this. I read up until page, 98, I think. Was it? Yeah, chapter 11, 98. So like almost a third of the book through. And I could not, no. There's so much I could rant about it. I know it's a book that a lot of people like or dislike. It's like either or, you cannot like really be in between there. And I dislike this book. I tried it. I think I'm gonna try other books by Sally Rooney just because I know that there's more books of her that people love, especially normal people. I have seen normal people everywhere, even more than this, but this was just a book that was in my bookstore available, and I just picked it up, and I thought it was kind of an interesting story, to be honest. Wait, did I even tell you what Crave was about? Let's go back a little bit. Crave is about Grace, and her parents die, and she is like taken by her, I think it's uncle and her cousin, to attend a school in Nebraska where her uncle works and her cousin is a student of. And in that school, there's a lot of weird things going on, and she finds out about those things like halfway through the book, kind of. It's more than vampires, there's like shapeshifters and even more. There was a lot of reveals, but also, this is basically a story about someone who's been thrown into a supernatural world as a mortal. Let's go back to Sally Rooney. So this is basically about, on one side, it's about Alice and Felix. They meet on Tinder, and in the first chapter, even we see them meeting up in a bar, and they go to her place. We kind of follow those two throughout the book. And on the other hand, we are following Eileen and Simon. Eileen is Alice's best friend, and Eileen lives in Dublin. They write emails to each other. And those emails more interesting, basically, than the other story they were like, or Sally Rooney wrote in this book. So I was more interested in emails than in the actual stories. It's a DNF, but it's a hard DNF, if you could say it like that. I'm not gonna pick this up again, to be honest. I've tried. Like I said, I'm gonna try other Sally Rooney books maybe. But for now, I'm gonna leave this. So I've tried. And the book I'm currently reading, and I'm loving. That's why I said earlier, I'm not sure if Funny Story with 4.5 stars is gonna be the book that's the highest rated in May, because I'm currently reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this book, my gosh, you guys, this book, I'm not done with it right now, but I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I have no idea how to express it otherwise. I love how it's narrated. We follow Monique, who is a writer at Vivant. I think the audiobook says Vivant or something. It's publishing. Monique is chosen by by Evelyn Hugo to write. So originally, Evelyn Hugo wants Monique to write an article about her. Monique arrives at Evelyn Hugo's place, and then she kind of discovers that Evelyn Hugo is planning something totally different. And that something different is that Monique has to write Evelyn Hugo's autobiography. And I was I was kind of shook because I really thought it was gonna be about that article about her selling dresses and getting that money and putting that money in cancer research, because Evelyn Hugo's daughter died of cancer at the age of 41. She has to write that book, but she's kind of struggling to tell that to her boss because her boss thinks she's writing that article and not that autobiography. So it's kind of like a sneaky way. But we follow Evelyn Hugo in her perspective back in the days when she had those 7 husbands. We get to know those 7 husbands a little more. Like I said, I'm not done with this, but I'm almost done with it, and it's the 30th. I'm gonna be done with it by tomorrow night. As of this point, I'm giving this a 4.75. Hi guys, coming at you after I finished The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I am safe to say I finished it last night. It was still May, so it's still a May book, and I'm safe to say that this is a 5-star read. It is over the top. It is such a good book. I'm talking about this way more in my reading vlogs, so maybe check that out if you want to. Future Alex has finished this book. I could not stop reading last night, and it was 11 p.m. and I was like, okay, I gotta finish this because it's so good. It wasn't like, oh, it's still May, I need to finish it, but it was more like, I love this book, I need to finish it because I want to know what's going on and I want to know how this is gonna wrap up. So I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books, 1 DNF and 1 I'm in the middle of, so it's like basically 6 books. I'm really happy I picked those up. Thank you for watching this video. Please tell me if you have read any of these books and what you think about those.